talking about learning today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very interesting, fun, and important part of life, you know. And if I think about learning in anything that we do for personal lives, for careers, in school, in your everyday practice with students.
Mhm.
So just to warm up a little bit, why would you say learning is important?
Um, I think learning and learning how to learn is the foundation for critical thinking. I know critical thinking is an overused term, and
Mm.
but our ability to problem solve or process and retain information, or I guess have opinions or engage in a meaningful dialogue, I think the root of that is learning.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's
that's
the foundation of everything.
gosh, that's so true. And you know, you just touched on the critical thinking part, and I think in today's environment, we hear so much about importance of critical thinking in
Yeah.
your personal lives, in your professional lives. When you, I don't know, read the news or you come across this piece of information, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
So then learning becomes not nice to have, it becomes an important skill for your life. It's like
Yeah.
a life skill almost, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's, in whether it be in post-secondary, sort of learning how to learn, whether that's, our students making their way into the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a foundation of a culture, workplace culture, and learning culture is something we often talk about,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's that thing that has to be, I guess, woven into the fabric of the values of a company
Mm-hmm.
in order for it to go anywhere.
Mm.
Every company might train and develop, but that doesn't make it sort of a learning orientation. It's okay, do we infuse that into our value system and our sort of daily working? So
What would you say today when you work with a lot of students, you know, the future of the workforce? What would you say some of the, let's start with the strengths,
okay.
the strengths that this generation of learners, I would call, because we work with people from different age groups, right?
Yes.
So this generation of learners in today's times, what are some of the strengths that they bring?
I think it does all fit into these sort of principles of adult learners. What are some of the characteristics? And I do see them in our learners.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of that is diverse stories and experiences.
Mm.
Um, I think what I'll see sort of in the classroom, and then what you'll see in the workplace. So
Yeah.
leadership sees with incoming, with staff and selection, and what you'll see is there's often this idea that until I've trained you, you don't know anything yet. And learners will come into the classroom. If I haven't taken the subject matter, or if I haven't taken a program like this, I don't know anything yet. So I think the strength, to get to the point, is this: the stories, the opinions, the experiences, the formal and informal
Mm.
learning they bring. So I think there's this hidden strength, but I also think there's a real strength in, I think, the classroom and the workplace is global. This has changed. We look around. The diversity is massive. I love the diversity of generations in the classroom. I have
Yeah.
people that have doctorates or masters from other countries, and people fresh out of high school. And then we have people with families, new families, no families, and
Mm-hmm.
career changes. And so the other strength is bringing with them their diversity.
Yeah.
And I think that all just adds to a real interesting learning environment, a real interesting workforce, if we allow space for those strengths to contribute.
That's so true. And I think you just hit on a couple of really important points, is the fact that people bring so much different diversity in terms of perspective,
Mm.
experience, knowledge, thoughts, and all of those things that they have. But then there are a lot of hidden potential that people might often have, right? And
Yeah.
within the classroom, we are able to unpack it in a way. And probably a very productive workforce or workplace would be the workplace that is able to unpack those
Mhm.
hidden talents that people have, these hidden
Absolutely.
opportunities, that hidden potentials that people
Mhm.
would have, because
Yeah.
they do not come with nothing. They come with
Yeah.
tons of experiences, ideas, and thoughts. And the moment we can help people to unpack those experiences and apply them properly, probably this is the magic of learning happens.
I think so, and I think now I think we're really getting into what are the core values of the company, though, right? So you're looking at, okay, so if we see there's this hidden value of employees, that, and this is, workforces are finally realizing this. I mean, it's maybe over the last few decades.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have to look beyond sort of the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you bringing that's a strength? And it could be personality, core values that are similar to ours. It could be those hidden strengths and your diversity that you bring, and it all adds value. However, we do this in the classroom because we teach from a learner-centered perspective. We know that learners bring something meaningful, so
Yeah.
we create a space for them to come into to hopefully realize a lot of these talents, and for us to nurture that. Workforces have to have a similar mentality. There's often this idea that there's education and there's the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the danger is feeling that they are that different. They're
Yeah.
not. Learners will bring that same diversity and those perspectives to the workplace. And I think if the workforce leadership is to see that value, like you were just mentioning, that has to be a core value of their culture. It's okay, do we see the value of our employees? Did we hire them for their intelligence? Are we going to let them be intelligent?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that with some support and maybe some autonomy, and can they contribute something? Do we give them a voice? There's all these things, but there's still organizations that don't. It's sort of, that's leadership's job, and then there's you, the employee.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unfortunate, because then they're just not, there's all this good stuff inside of our employees that I think can really contribute, and that can get missed.
Absolutely.
That can get missed.
Yeah, and people bring so much. And I also often think that, well, you know what? I can't really apply one particular formula into the workplace and say,
Mhm.
that's how you got to treat your employees. That's how you got to let them shine. Give autonomy, don't give autonomy. Just
Yeah.
be transparent.
Yes.
Just tell them that's the workforce, that's what we expect.
Mhm.
And then people can choose, because a lot of people, they might sometimes choose, you know what, just tell me what to do, I'm going to do the job.
True.
Others would say, well, I have all of those ideas that you hired me for, so let me apply my ideas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So as long as organizations are being transparent and actually clear on their own values, and not just having those values as big words on the walls,
Yes.
but actually living those values, this is where the beautiful alignment happens.
Yep.
And this is where you can get the most out of people that you actually bring within the organizations.
Absolutely. We talk a ton about that in our courses, this
Yeah.
idea of value congruence. And I think you said something really, that really hit me. It was that the organization has to know what their values are. And I think quite often they are just words on a page, or in a training manual, or it's a mission on a wall, or and these, I think quite often the organization thinks these are their values and they're seen within the company, but they're nowhere to be found. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that an organization does identify, who am I? Who are we? What matters? And then employees have a responsibility coming in. It's, what are my values? And is this aligned?
Totally.
Is there a match? Because productivity does increase, right,
Yeah.
with that type of alignment.
Yeah.
But again, I think sometimes we can stray from that. And then if we don't know what we value, then we don't know how to support the employees. And you said something else that really sort of struck me, which was, employees have a choice. And it's true. It's not always on the organization to, make them fit. It's this dynamic of, okay, are you going to be a fit with our vision, our culture? We want it diverse, but will this be a match?
Yeah.
And an employee has to say, does this work for me as well? Is
Yeah.
this in alignment with my vision and who I am and my core values? And you're right. Then there's a choice to be made, right? So yeah, every culture is different, but you have to know what that is. So.
Definitely. And as you were talking, it made me think about how I sometimes see with the students, for example. And again, saying student, I don't necessarily mean this young individual who just graduated
Yes.
high school.
Yeah.
It's somebody who goes to get their education, let's say, having their diploma, certificate, degree, whatever it might be. So when people go to school, they kind of in a very structured environment. And as much as we want to develop those skills in students, decision-making, responsibility, resilience, thinking outside of the box, but still this is a very guided process.
Yeah.
And then when people graduate and go into the workplace, in the workplace, they are actually expected to do the work.
Yes.
That you were hired to do. You said that you can do that. And I find, not always, but sometimes, or maybe even often, there is this misalignment between, okay, I got the job, now I come, teach me.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
As you said, that students sometimes would come into the classroom having all of this potential, but they would wait to be guided. And I find that in certain cases in the workplaces, there are those situations too, that people get hired and they are waiting to be guided, right? While they are expected to actually come and start working and get the work done. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be orientation, there shouldn't be training, there shouldn't be proper onboarding. absolutely. But where is this line between, okay, do I have to jump into the work right away, or I just sit here and wait for you to teach me to do the work that you hired me to do?
Yeah.
So sometimes this is where this learning mindset doesn't kick in necessarily.
Yeah, I think there's an accountability that we're looking for in our students. So I think, yes, I mean, we often we're talking about sort of post-secondary, but that's because it's that bridge often into the
Yeah.
workplace. And we're looking at the accountability of, I'm here to teach you, I'm here to support you, but there is a degree of accountability on your part. We are creating a space for you to learn. You have to jump into it. And here's the gap. You're right. We really guide students a lot, or we should, you know. Um, but that becomes the balance, I think, where we often, and myself, struggle as an instructor of, even though we're trying to create sort of workforce readiness, we are a learning institute. So where's that line between when am I helping and supporting and when am I enabling? And I don't have the answer. We're always trying to find it.
Yeah.
Because you're right. There's so much structure. There's so much support. There's reminders. There's, you know, even for meetings, hey, are you going to come? I'm still waiting. Like even for a student meeting, sometimes they'll, and then you can't bring those habits to the workplace. There's an expectation that now they're ready.
Yeah.
But how ready are they? Ready are they?
But now you're going to apply those skills.
That's the thing. And there's a
Yeah.
whole element of learning.
Yeah.
And accountability that has to take place beyond the knowledge and the skills from the textbooks that they're learning. It's character development. It's initiative. It's conscientiousness and discipline.
Resilience.
Are you organized? Yeah. Can you bounce back from, you know, adversity?
Yeah.
Can you have difficult conversations and deal with tensions, still regulate and be productive?
Yeah.
So within school, sure, there's still such a heavy focus on pushing the content, but there's a lot of this incidental learning, this unexpected learning we're hoping happens, which is, okay, when we give you a team project, can you deal with some friction? Can you deal with that difficult member? Hopefully those are the learnings that you're packing into a jar and you're saying, okay, I'm coming to the workplace, not just understanding some of the knowledge and theory that I brought from my program, but I've developed as a human being and understand that I have a role to play.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other learning that I'm expected to do. So, or a lot of other accountability.
Yes.
But you're right. What does the organization do? It's okay, because there is a gap between theory and practice. We try to close that at our college. But that is a frustration. But yeah, the expectation of learning beyond the textbooks and development. So
100%. And you know, I am a big fan of this idea that when it comes to being successful at what you do, or being a part of the organizational culture, or enjoying working in this organization, it's not just on the employer. Employee plays a really important role from the very first day that they actually enter this workplace.
Yes.
How much responsibility do you take? It's not all on the organization to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
How much responsibility do you take in order for you to show that you are a part of the team, that you are a part of this contributor? And you know, I always use this metaphor with the students once they graduate. It's like when they are here in school, it's like they are in this greenhouse. You know, they're taken care of, they are growing, they're getting all the nutrients, all the help, they're getting all the support. But once they graduate, now from this greenhouse, they go into this crazy jungle.
Yeah.
And then in the jungle, you are expected to use those skills. And unless you actually use them in real life in the jungle, you don't know if this skill is strong enough, or maybe you need to still work on something a little bit, or you might be surprised that, oh, I'm really good at it, right? So this shift from the greenhouse into the jungle sometimes gets a little bit challenging and complicated.
You set up, there's several things in there I want to tap into because I really liked it. So I love the metaphor of the greenhouse. You're right. Very nurturing, very, and I think there's either it's a misconception or a blind spot for students, or excuse me, sorry, I'm not sure where the disconnect is, but this type of accountability, when we push them to, you need to learn this stuff, not just have access to it on the internet. Like there's a process involved, because then you can digest and have opinions. And when we are pushing students for accountability, or when we push them to be on time or resolve their team conflict, or there's almost this idea of, well, okay, it doesn't matter. I have to pass my course. And then when they get into the workforce, all of those things we've been pushing,
Yeah.
those additional skills are expected, but they didn't realize that college is the practice field. Like that's practice, and then it's game time when
Yeah,
you go to the workplace.
exactly.
It's game time.
Exactly.
So I don't
Yeah.
skip practice and expect to be awesome on the field. I
100%.
realize I have to sweat, make mistakes, take risks, fall. In a safe environment where
Yeah.
risk taking and mistake making is promoted. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And then when they go to the workplace, is it okay? I practice those skills, so it's still going to be new. There's still always going to be a gap,
Yeah.
but we can lessen the gap. You know. So there's the one thing that you mentioned, but so it's students need to recognize that there's more to learning beyond the textbook. That's going to translate to the workplace.
That's so true.
And then you mentioned something else. I'm trying to. Was it regarding learning how to learn? Was it? Oh, you mentioned. I really like this point. Was how accountable are the students as employees coming into the workplace?
Mm-hmm.
There is an expectation, and I've just finished talking about this in our class of leadership. And then we talked about emotions in the workplace and developing attitudes, and this idea of, well, the workplace should motivate me, the workplace should make me feel better. And sure, to some degree, yes, there's a responsibility of, okay, how can we create job satisfaction? Meaningful work. How can we create a healthy workplace culture? How do we impact your internal state? So as an employee, it's not the fluffy human reason. It's not it's important stuff for performance. It's your emotions drive your behavior. We have a responsibility to impact your emotional state as a person, because you walk in with your whole selves.
Yeah.
This leave your stuff at the door thing, we can't. We bring our issues, our problems, our stresses, so we have a responsibility. However, my point is the employee, the student also as an employee has a responsibility to say, okay, how am I going to self-motivate? It's the idea of self-leadership, I think.
Yes.
So 100%. When I'm teaching leadership and they think, well, I don't want to be in leadership. I don't want to be,
it's not for me.
I always say it's self-leadership.
Yeah.
How are you going to resolve conflict? How are you going to motivate yourself? How are you going to self-soothe when you're upset and still be productive?
Totally.
So everything that leadership's supposed to do externally, you need to do for yourself. So you need to come in knowing that that's on you. You each play, it's a relationship. And I think sometimes there's a misconception that, no, the workplace has to do it all. Or the workplace often feels you have to come in and just motivate yourself.
Yeah, it's two extremes.
We have a role. It's the rules of interpersonal relationships and dynamic do not change because I'm getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Or because we have corporate rules, or it's the same.
Yeah.
The context changes, but somehow it gets, this is work, that's personal.
Black and white.
It's a mesh.
Yeah.
And
gosh, I so much agree with you. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, it's like when both parts contribute, something way better would be created out of it. So it was a very passionate, topic and discussion.
Yes.
But if you could today to give an advice to, let's say, managers or HR professionals on, okay, how to create a learning workforce. How do you actually make your workplace such that people not just attend this workshop because they have to, because your manager sent the invite, or how they can make their people to take these extra steps to actually being interested in learning, going a little bit above and beyond, exploring new things?
Ooh, that's I mean, I definitely don't have the magic answer. But I think that's just a constant journey. We're constantly looking for how do we create that, because we should be creating learning organizations. And just in case you don't know what that is, it's this idea that we foster learning and knowledge and just ongoing. It's not just we train them for 2 weeks and now
we're done.
So for me, what I would say is, one, we would have to hire people that have a passion for learning. I think, again, if I have a core value of sustainability, let's say I really believe in impact on community, environment, and we're playing a role here as an organization, I will not, it's my fault if I hire somebody that doesn't care about the environment or care about the community. I need, there has to be that value congruence. It starts there. I can't inject that into you. If we are passionate about relationships, I can't force somebody to care about that who doesn't care about relationships. So I would say it would start with your selection process. How, that's a whole other topic,
That's
right? But
I have to
you know,
tell you that without being an HR person, you just said such an important HR truth
oh,
that everything starts with the selection process. And if you
Mm.
don't know what type of people you're looking for,
Yeah.
and if you don't actually do this reflection for yourself as an organization,
Mhm.
okay, what do I want? How do I want my workforce to look like?
Yeah.
You won't be able to hire the right people. You won't be able to hire the right mindsets. And whatever is there on the resume, they could have hundreds of different degrees and workshops and certificates and all of
Mhm.
that. It does not necessarily guarantee that the person would have this learning mindset and
Absolutely
would
not.
join your
Well,
learning organization.
exactly. And we're talking about, are we hiring the right people or the best people?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah.
best by
Mm.
definition, we look at, okay, they've got the skill sets you need and they're high performing. Right is they have those skill sets and
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can get into that, but it's, you don't walk in with the learning mindset. I can't make you care about this.
Mhm.
We're getting into readiness to learn, right? Now we're talking about adult learning. And so I would say selection 100%. What that looks like, that's a whole other conversation, but it really is your interviewing process. Before you even get in front of an interviewee, it's what's our profile? What does our
Yeah.
employee, when I say look like, I mean internally, what's important to them, what matters, otherwise you're just going to get a mess
Yeah.
and wonder why it's not working. So I would start there. The next thing for me is it has to be communicated as a core value. And again, like we said, not just speeches on a wall,
Mhm.
but from the point of saying, okay, we value learning and growth.
And that's how we do it in our everyday life in
There
the
you
company.
go. There you go. So then we get into the idea of, artifacts, this sort of case. So now what do we do to promote that? So it's not
Yeah.
just professional development every 4 weeks. It's on a day-to-day basis. Are there opportunities for informal, is there mentorship and feedback? Do you have a workplace culture that allows space, physical space and
Yeah.
opportunity of autonomy in a job so people can interact? And then they have those informal conversations where unexpected learning takes place. And so I guess it's to recognize that we need formal learning opportunities throughout. That's
Mhm.
true.
Mhm.
But informally, how can we create a physical environment, job descriptions, and policies that allow freedom for this organic exchange of thought?
Yeah.
That's really,
Oh, you said it
I know that's really
beautifully.
vague, but it's sort of because learning will, like you and I will
Yeah.
often talk about different concepts and different topics. Just lean over and say, hey, what do you think about? And then they turn into these unexpected conversations.
Yes.
That's learning.
Yeah.
It's
Big
learning.
time.
It
Big
doesn't,
time.
and I learn a ton from that. And I don't need a PD day
Mhm.
as now we need those, but I need the infusion of that.
Just this is not enough.
It's not enough.
Yes.
And nor
Yeah.
would it be enough just to have informal conversations. There would
Mhm.
have to be some type of formality
Mhm.
to learning and
Yeah.
reinforcing that. But then I think the next answer to that is, okay, if we've selected the right people, we've identified it as a core value, and we've implemented systems, let's say, where there's a flow of ideas and this
Yeah.
recognition of learning, then the next step, excuse me, sorry, really comes to, are we giving people the opportunity and responsibility to utilize what they're learning?
Mm.
So then, because otherwise it's thanks for all the learning,
If
but
you
now
don't
you're still
use it, you lose it.
micromanaging me.
Yeah.
So
Big time.
now do we allow them to go off into the wild
Yeah.
and take some risk? And are we
Use
okay
it.
with some of that mistake making and how?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think. And then
That's-
with yeah,
Yeah. No, it's so deep, and there are so many things
Yeah.
that you just mentioned, because I really believe that learning does happen in reflection. It's like if you attend this PD day, let's say company invests and does beautiful PD activity, or they have this wonderful onboarding process and training for employees. But if there is no space after
Mhm.
that to reflect, to apply, to use what you've just learned, you're going to lose it. You're
Yeah.
going to forget about it, right? So
Mhm.
learning does happen in reflection, but you need to be able to have the space to reflect, but also to have the space to apply what you have
Mhm.
learned.
Yeah.
And which makes it very interesting for some organizations, because in some cases it's like this checkbox,
Yeah.
okay, training done, onboarding done, but then what? Have
Mhm.
we provided those spaces to actually apply what we were
Yeah.
trying to teach, or PD opportunities that we're trying to provide to our employees?
No, I agree.
That's fascinating topic, and I know we can talk about it for hours and hours.
Yes,
You know,
definitely. I could go all day.
like
Yeah, because there's just such a link. I mean, I have such a passion for learning and adult
Yeah.
learning, and so whether it's post-secondary, where I live, or whether it's sort of the workplace environment and culture, it's
Mm.
I don't know. The learning is good.
Yes,
Learning is good learning, and
learning is learning.
so it doesn't really matter
Totally.
what context is.
And today there is a lot of conversations around this topic that we have so much information, almost information overload, right? Everything is accessible. It's not that you have to go to the library to find, like, couple of clicks you figured out, and then bring AI into the picture, that it becomes a completely whole different conversation on AI and learning. So, but then when you think about it in terms of the human skills, the skill that you as an individual can have that will make you relevant 5, 10, 15 years from now, or the skill that you as an organization has that will still make you relevant 5, 10, 15 years from now. Because today it's inevitable. We will have to reinvent ourselves again and again and again, as individuals and as organizations. And then what I think is that if I could pick one skill that could actually be the most important one in this process of reinvention, it's the learning. Because if you don't learn how to learn, and learning within itself is an art. Yes, some things, they come easily to us because, I don't know, we have this great memory, or we just catch concepts very quickly, whatever the talent we might have. But as a concept, learning is a skill, learning is a muscle, that if we don't actively work on developing this muscle, we're not going to be able to use it at the moment when we need it the most. Suddenly something changes, I need to reinvent myself. I need to go into a different career, or company decides to go a completely different direction. So would you agree that learning is the number one future skill to have?
I do, 100%. Excuse me, sorry. I think in any environment, this idea, and you hit it right on the mark, this idea of there's no expiry date, and if the time learning is challenging, you said it right. You said it takes practice. It's a muscle. It does. It's a different way of thinking. It's challenging. You try to tell somebody, okay, you need to study for your exam. For an example, a lot of people don't know how. It's sort of, they'll memorize, and it's like, well, how do you learn it? And then that's a whole other conversation. But when we learn, and some people say it sounds cliche, but it's not. When you learn how to learn, there's not one way to do it. But that can't be replaced. It's this idea that, we had to change how we teach. Technology's changed the game as well. Demographics has changed the game so much as the workforce changes us all the time. And we have to continually understand, okay, well, these learning principles continue to help me shape my practice as an educator. And if I didn't know how to learn, then I wouldn't know how to problem solve or how to reprocess that. And I think I agree, even in organizations, are they continually adapting, learning, and changing? Because the technology is not going anywhere. AI is just beginning, and it's just at the birth of its process. So it has all the answers, but we are still the big cog in the wheel that are going to have to do sort of the problem solving, the thinking, and access to information has become a bit of a scary thing. It seems to have diluted the importance of, well, why do I need to learn this? I have the answer. It's, well, you may get the answer, but did you know how you got there, why? And if you run into an issue, would you be able to have a meaningful conversation around it? And there's a gap there.
I totally agree. And then when we think about learning how to learn, I think we also need to remember that learning is an extremely emotional process. And this is what a lot of people don't take into considerations, or even companies, right? Because we can figure out, okay, what are the techniques of learning? We can build an activity, we can build a PD day, and then we can even let our people to apply the skill that they've learned. But when emotions come in, this is when it becomes very interesting, because if I am not aligned with what I learn, in other words, back to these foundations of what is in it for me, in school or at work, if I'm not aligned, if I don't know how I'm going to use it, if I don't know how it's going to benefit me or the work that I do, those emotions would be a huge barrier within my learning process. So I think that organizations and learning institutions and people in their daily lives need to consider this, that learning is a very emotional process. And I want to make sure that I make it such that my learning process actually takes emotions into consideration.
Yeah.
And
that's I'm smiling because I just finished teaching a lesson on emotions and attitudes,
yeah.
and the idea of how emotions shape attitudes, and then the long-lasting attitude shapes our behavior. And organizations are finally realizing, wow, we've been missing a piece of the formula.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. That takes us back to, why do I need to learn it? What's in it for me? But even just the emotional state, the connection, I think that's all part of the value congruence. That takes us back. If I'm working for a company, so if employees, students, for example, that leave us and say, okay, where am I going to go work? And I know a lot of them just need the job.
Yeah.
They'll take anything at the moment. That's fine. But once they get to a point where they can say, okay, do I share similar values? Is their vision in line with mine? Will I feel good there? Is the work meaningful? Then when the organization does apply some of the learning or some of the training, etc., it should have meaning. You would hope that
emotions
would just
are aligned.
Yeah, and it would be, I enjoy what I'm learning because I do work for a company that gets it. I am in line with my values, and so when they are training me, it's all centered on a similar direction.
Yeah,
you're right. It would be a huge gap if an organization had a particular set of values, workplace culture, hired employees, and it was a match, and then they offered training that was irrelevant.
Yeah.
So you're right. Are we giving them the tools they need to be successful? Sort of knowledge, skill development. There's the knowledge. Are we giving them some responsibility to then use it? So here's some extra responsibility, some meaning in your work.
Yeah.
And 3, are we then giving them some autonomy? Like that's the formula for job enrichment, right? When we're looking at an organization and they're really fostering the learning, there has to be the relevance. That's really key. Are we training people in a way that's going to mean something to them? That's being employee-centered, just like we're learner-centered in our classroom, right?
Yeah.
It's our organization's going, what do we want to do? What do we want to learn? It's no, we are the we are the company, right? So there's that. So once we get into that, it's okay. The formula for that job enrichment is, okay, is the learning relevant? And are we going to give them the knowledge that they find meaningful? So there's sort of number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, okay, we've given them the knowledge, and this is where it stops for many. Here's a bunch of knowledge, and then nothing. But usually stops there, and it's your job hasn't changed. Yeah. We're still going to micromanage. You're good. And you're like, I have this knowledge. What do I do with it? So the second step is, here's some responsibility. I trusted you with some new knowledge and skills. Here are a few extra tasks or additional tasks or different tasks, and let's give you some responsibility. That adds value. That's self-concept here. This is like, I feel valued, nurtured, important. I'm feeling, okay, thank you. And then 3, though, is kind of get out of my way. Yeah. Give me some autonomy. So you've trusted me with this. Give me enough slack that I can make some risks, make some mistakes. They're not detrimental, but I need some autonomy. So all of that, but a lot of times it's, here's more responsibility. I've enriched your life.
Yeah.
So you haven't given me any more knowledge. You haven't trained me. There's no autonomy. There's just more work. There's a gap in this formula.
Oh, right? That's such a beautiful formula, and the steps that you outlined, I really, really love it. I love it. And this is something that organizations definitely need to kind of consider, pay attention to. But, I wanted to switch gears a little bit before we wrap up, because I sometimes feel that when we think about learning and we talk about the importance of learning and providing this kind of environment to learn and aligning with emotions, aligning with values, what we sometimes forget, similar to motivation, for example, that it doesn't always feel good. It's not that always, every single time you need to learn something new, you're like, yay, I'm so happy to do that. Sometimes we have to engage in learning processes that are not necessarily comfortable, that are not necessarily enjoyable. But then it's the same idea of, well, how do you go to the gym? How do you want to develop this muscle?
Yes.
You have this big goal in mind, but the process isn't always comfortable and enjoyable. Sometimes you learn stuff that you are struggling with, you don't understand, or you question, why do you even need to study this, right? But as long as you have this final goal in mind, like again, the gym kind of comparison, You go into the gym and some exercises are tough and you hate it and
Mhm.
you don't want to do it, but you do it anyway because you know that the consequences of this process will be that you're going to develop this muscle, that you're going to feel better, that you're going to be stronger, hotter, whatever
Yes.
the
Yeah.
goal of your going to the gym is,
Yeah.
right?
No, I agree. You're right. What a great point. There's definitely a misconception that everything I do should be things that I like.
Or they
And
feel good.
yeah, and it should always feel good. And but that's sort of like, this might seem sort of like I'm going off to left field here, but it's no different than relationships. I mean, the healthiest relationships require a degree of conflict. They
Yeah.
require friction. They require. I mean, how do you think we learn? We grow. We get to know the other person a little better, and it's. But a lot of people, well, we started to argue, or we're not agreeing on everything anymore, and we
Yeah,
need to
that's
break up.
it. Yeah.
It's well, wait a second, maybe that's the good stuff. Like,
Mhm.
and I know it sounds weird, but
Mhm.
no, I'm not always going to learn stuff I want to learn. I'm not always going to do jobs I really like, even if there's value congruence, even if there's a
Yes.
culture I like,
Yeah.
even if all of that's in line. There's going to be things I don't want to do. And one of the measures of character really is, can I do something I don't want to do and still do it well?
Yeah.
And the problem is, we don't see that a lot. It's, well, I don't like it, I don't want to do it, so I'll do it really poorly, or I might not do it at all, or I'll just
I'm
question
gonna
it.
quit.
And it's like, you know what? Sometimes we have to just take something for the team.
Yeah.
Sometimes every part of our job isn't something we love. Overall, if we look at the equation, is this something that gives us meaning? There we
Yeah.
go.
Totally.
But there are definitely going to be times when we have to take the training, or we're going to be given a task, and we're not going to like it. And you said, I'm not going to feel good about it. It's going to give me stress.
Yeah.
It's going to give me pressure. But that's the key. If we belong to an organization where there is that value congruence, if there is that support, if there is a culture that supports, if all the other stuff's in line, that sort of good hopefully outweighs those negative moments.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to push through. And again, bringing it back to the classroom, the practice field, those are things we're trying to emphasize with learners as well. Sometimes they
Yeah.
have to take a course. Well, how is this relevant? Why
Yeah.
is this in my program? I
Big
want to
time.
be, in business. Why am I taking this? And it's, well, because there will be things in your workplace that you have to do that you don't like. Learning how to learn something that you're not interested in and still produce something is a skill. What a great skill that is. Hopefully we don't have to do it all the time, but that's a great skill to overcome that which we're not interested in, right? So good point. Wow, I could talk about that forever.
So learn how to learn. That's a wrap.
Learning how to learn.
Yeah.
That's the tool that doesn't expire. Yeah.